Hi, everyone. My name is Paul Nguyen, and I'll talk about work I did with Professor Huang on anonymity in the Ubuntu dialog corpus. To kick things off, our overall goal was to spot sensitive and identifiable information from a public conversational dataset, essentially. Some things we looked for were explicit identifiers, which Sagen defines as direct privacy threats, and these are things that are one-to-one essentially, such as your address or your social security number, which not very many people share with you. We also looked for quasi-identifiers, which are attributes which, when taken together, can identify an individual. And a researcher named Sweeney demonstrated that you can uniquely identify most individuals in the US through a combination of these quasi-identifiers. The data set we looked at was the Ubuntu dialog corpus, which consists of 1 million two-person conversations about the Ubuntu software. And due to time constraints, we looked at a smaller sample of the data set, but still a sizable 350,000 conversations. Our first step in looking for this information was to use named entity recognition models to find identifiable information. And these models identify named entities such as religion, organizations, and locations, and more. But one thing to note is that not every message containing a named entity is bad. For example, we have real but not bad names, such as Ubuntu or Bash, where these are legitimate names, but give no identifying information about a user. Or we can also have acronyms that were identified as named entities, where AFAIK is more likely to stand for "as far as I know," rather than someone's work or organization that they're a part of. Our solution to these false positives was tfidf, term frequency inverse document frequency. And essentially, this gives us the significance of a named entity. This tfidf increases when a user uses a name often, but it decreases if every user uses the same name. And then as an example, we have one person's named entities to the left: USB Studio, Elizabethtown, Kentucky. And we see that even though this person uses each name once, the tfidf score of Kentucky and Elizabethtown is higher than Studio and USB, because it's likely that this is the only person referencing their experience in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, rather than the legions of people talking about USB and Studio and Shell. So after running the named entity recognition, calculating tfidf scores, and looking for certain pattern identifiers such as emails using regular expressions, I selected some key examples of users to demonstrate the identifiable information in the dataset. Note that one particularly bad case is user 5, whose first name, last name, school, school year, location, age, and thesis is all available in just these 2 messages. So that is not great. And this pretty uniquely identifies this person. And so just recall that this is just a sample of the data set. With more conversations, it's possible that there's more information regarding these users, as well as information about other users that weren't included in the sample that I chose. In my research, I showed the presence of direct privacy threats and explicit identifiers in the corpus, as well as threats due to quasi-identifiers, where taken together, we can identify an individual. I also did find messages including people's email and password combinations, which is pretty dangerous to have publicly available, especially given the fact that people often reuse passwords. And in my research, I also provide a procedure to scale the identification effort so that in the future, one can use this procedure on the entire data set, as well as other similar conversational data sets, and identify messages that contain identifying information for these individuals. And yeah, Thank you everyone for listening to my presentation.